In the vast fields of America, where the soil holds stories of toil, ambition, and survival, two titans quietly waged a war that would reshape agriculture forever. John Deere, the meticulous craftsman and international harvester, the audacious powerhouse, clashed not with swords, but with machines, tractors, harvesters, and innovations that promised to dominate the heartland. Behind every engine, hum, and polished plow lay boardroom intrigues, whispered rivalries, and gambles that could make or break fortunes. Dealers whispered, engineers schemed, and farmers watched as ambition collided with ingenuity. This is a story of human ambition, industrial espionage, and the relentless pursuit of supremacy, where every move carried risk, every invention carried consequence, and the stakes were nothing less than the soul of modern farming. The farming titans rise. In the heartland of America, where endless fields of corn and wheat stretched like golden oceans under the sun, two titans were quietly emerging, International Harvester and John Deere, each determined to dominate the machinery that fed the nation. It wasn't just a competition of tractors, plows, and harvesters. This was a war of philosophies, a battle of visionaries whose egos, ambitions, and relentless drive would shape the fate of farmers for decades to come. To understand the magnitude of this struggle, one must first understand the men behind the machines. John Deere, a blacksmith-turned-industrialist, had built his empire on ingenuity and precision. In the early 19th century, he had perfected the polished steel plow, a deceptively simple invention that transformed the soil and made the vast prairies of the Midwest cultivable for the first time. Deere's success wasn't just in his engineering. It lay in his meticulous attention to quality, his insistence on reliability, and the quiet charisma that drew both employees and farmers to his side. On the other hand, International Harvester was born from ambition and consolidation, a corporate powerhouse formed in 1902 from the merger of McCormick Harvesting Machine Company and Deering Harvester Company. Where Deere represented precision, IH represented scale, aggression, and the unyielding pursuit of the market dominance. Almost from the beginning, these two companies were destined to collide. Farmers, the lifeblood of the American economy, were loyal but fickle. They demanded machines that worked without fail, promised innovation, and often relied on reputation more than contracts. Deere's steady rise drew admiration for reliability, while IH's aggressive expansion and flashy new models threatened to challenge that supremacy. Boardrooms in Chicago and Moline began to buzz not only with engineering plans, but with whispers of espionage, strategic sabotage, and underhanded maneuvers to sway dealer networks. The stakes were enormous. One failed launch, one miscalculated design, or one act of corporate hubris could tilt the balance and cost millions. From the outside, it may have seemed a polite rivalry of innovation, but beneath the surface, tensions simmered. Deere's engineers prided themselves on painstaking craftsmanship, testing prototypes for months under harsh conditions. International Harvester, meanwhile, relied on sheer scale, flooding the market with powerful machines that could appeal to a broader audience, often sacrificing elegance for brute force. Farmers quickly noticed the contrast. Deere's tractors lasted decades with minimal maintenance, while IH's machines promised more horsepower but sometimes delivered unexpected breakdowns. The feud was subtle yet relentless, a battle waged through product lines, marketing, and dealer persuasion rather than guns or lawsuits, though those would come in later decades. It was not just about machines, it was about culture, identity, and a sense of American pride. Deere represented the steadfast Midwestern values of precision, patience, and loyalty. IH, forged from mergers and corporate ambition, embodied aggressive growth, audacity, and a willingness to take risks that sometimes flirted with disaster. Dealers became battlegrounds where persuasion, loyalty, and rumor could tip the scales. Farmers whispered about defective tractors, secret deals, and executives plotting behind closed doors. The machinery they purchased was a reflection not just of utility, but of the ideological war between these two giants. As the 20th century dawned, both companies were poised to expand, innovate and, inevitably, clash. Deere began exploring engine-powered tractors, while IH invested heavily in mechanized harvesting equipment, determined to offer machines that no farmer could resist. The war for dominance was no longer confined to local fields. It was a fight for the soul of agriculture, a contest to define what modern farming would look like for generations to come. With each prototype, patent filing, and marketing campaign, the tension escalated, setting the stage for decades of intrigue, feuds, near bankruptcies, and industrial drama that would transform the American landscape forever. By the time tractors began replacing teams of horses and plows worked faster than any human crew, the rivalry had already transcended machinery. It was about reputation, survival, and the unrelenting pursuit of power. The story of International Harvester versus John Deere was not just a corporate tale. It was a saga of ambition, rivalry, and ingenuity, one that would leave a mark as indelible as the furrows cut into the American soil by the machines they created. Innovations, ire, and early feuds. By the early 20th century, both John Deere and International Harvester had moved beyond the basics of plows and harvesters, venturing into the rapidly evolving world of mechanized agriculture. Tractors, engine-driven harvesters, and experimental farm machinery were no longer luxuries. They were the battleground where reputations, fortunes, and loyalties would be tested. Deere, always meticulous, focused on precision engineering, refining small tractors that could endure years of unrelenting work without faltering. International Harvester, conversely, embraced scale and power, creating machines designed to dominate large farms with brute force. It was in this era that whispers of sabotage, patent skirmishes, and boardroom tensions began to shape the rivalry into something far more personal than a simple competition for market share. The feud had many catalysts, and one of the earliest came in the form of engine innovation. Deere, recognizing that steam and horse-powered implements were reaching their limits, invested heavily in internal combustion technology. Their early experiments produced machines that were quiet, efficient, and surprisingly durable, but they were also expensive and production was slow. Farmers praised their reliability but grumbled over cost, creating an opening for IH to exploit. International Harvester launched tractors that were larger, more powerful, and aggressively marketed as the future of farming. Yet, these machines often suffered mechanical failures, overheating, and occasional design flaws that earned them a reputation for unreliability among careful operators. The tension between craftsmanship and aggressive expansion became a defining theme of the rivalry, fueling a quiet yet bitter animosity in both camps. Patent disputes quickly became the weapons of choice in this escalating war. Engineers from both sides accused one another of copying innovations, borrowing design elements, and appropriating proprietary technologies. Confidential blueprints occasionally vanished, and rumors of spies observing factory operations were whispered through the Midwest. In one notorious incident, a Deere engineer discovered that a prototype engine had been remarkably similar to one developed in-house, leading to weeks of legal wrangling that threatened to escalate into a full-blown corporate scandal. While no executive ever publicly acknowledged wrongdoing, the incident deepened distrust, and employees began to view the opposing company not just as a competitor, but as an existential threat to their livelihoods. The rivalry was not limited to patents. Trade shows and agricultural fairs became arenas of subtle sabotage and theatrical one-upmanship. International Harvester would display massive tractors with promises of unprecedented horsepower, only for the engines to occasionally fail during demonstration runs. Deere responded by meticulously showcasing machines that ran flawlessly under harsh conditions, often using real farmers as impromptu testimonials. Dealers and farmhands whispered about who was cheating, who was cutting corners, and whose machinery would last the decade. These public displays, intended to win hearts and contracts, often backfired, exposing flaws, sparking ridicule, and inflaming tempers in executive offices across Illinois and Iowa. Behind closed doors, internal tensions mirrored the external feud. Deere's management struggled with cautious engineers who resisted pushing designs too far, fearing breakdowns or accidents, while IH's board pressed for ever larger machines, prioritizing market dominance over durability. This cultural clash led to bitter arguments, resignations, and sometimes dramatic confrontations in corporate offices, where executives would argue for hours over pricing, production, and the proper balance between reliability and innovation. Some employees quietly placed bets on which company would collapse first, while others devoted themselves to ensuring their employer would outlast the opposition at almost any cost. Yet amid the ire, remarkable innovation flourished. Deere's engineers perfected fuel-efficient small tractors that could plow, sow, and harvest without breaking down in the most punishing conditions. IH developed massive combines capable of harvesting hundreds of acres a day, cementing their reputation for industrial power. But every triumph was shadowed by anxiety. A mechanical flaw could ruin a demonstration, a failed launch could collapse trust, and a single leaked blueprint could spark legal battles that drained both cash and credibility. By the 1920s, the rivalry had matured into a relentless contest of technological one-upmanship, where every innovation carried stakes as high as life and death for the company's reputations. Farmers, dealers, and even rival engineers watched closely, knowing that one misstep could shift the balance decisively. The feud was no longer merely corporate, it had become personal, a war fought with engines, patents, and pride, setting the stage for decades of controversy, scandal, and high-stakes maneuvering that would define American agriculture for generations. The Tractor Wars. By the late 1920s, tractors had become more than tools. They were symbols of power, ingenuity, and corporate dominance. For John Deere and International Harvester, the stakes could not have been higher. This was no longer a quiet competition of plows and harrows. It had evolved into a full-blown war over the hearts, loyalty, and wallets of American farmers. Both companies understood that whoever controlled the tractor market controlled the future of mechanized farming, and neither was willing to surrender even an inch. John Deere, true to its reputation for meticulous engineering, released a series of small, versatile tractors capable of enduring harsh Midwest winters and unrelenting summer heat. These machines were precise, reliable, and designed to minimize breakdowns, earning the trust of farmers who depended on consistent performance to survive the agricultural economy's cyclical highs and lows. Deere's engineers worked tirelessly, often testing prototypes in real farms under grueling conditions, ensuring that each tractor could endure years of continuous operation. The quiet confidence in their craftsmanship became a hallmark of Deere's strategy. Win loyalty through reliability rather than spectacle. International Harvester, however, approached the battlefield with a very different philosophy. Their tractors were larger, more powerful, and marketed aggressively as the pinnacle of mechanized farming. IH believed in sheer scale, flooding the market with high-horsepower machines that could theoretically plow and harvest far faster than any competitor. But these early giants were not without flaws. Engines overheated, transmissions failed under heavy load, and some models proved unwieldy for smaller farms. Yet IH relied on aggressive marketing and dealer incentives, convincing many farmers to gamble on innovation over reliability. It was a strategy that drew admiration and skepticism in equal measure. The first major clash occurred not on the farm fields, but at agricultural fairs and expos, where both companies showcased their latest machinery. Demonstrations, intended to impress, quickly turned into arenas of rivalry. IH would parade massive tractors across test fields, promising unmatched horsepower, only for some engines to sputter or stall under stress. Deere countered with flawlessly running machines, often piloted by veteran farmers whose endorsements carried immense weight. Rumors swirled. Did IH secretly modify engines for demos? Were Deere tractors secretly rigged to outperform under scrutiny? These whispered suspicions fueled the growing tension between engineers, executives, and dealers alike. The conflict spilled into the courtroom as well. Patent disputes became increasingly common, with each company accusing the other of copying designs or infringing on proprietary technology. IH alleged Deere had pilfered plans for engine components, while Deere accused IH of mimicking the precise alignment and durability of its plow mechanisms. Legal battles dragged on for months, draining cash and morale, and executives began viewing competitors less as rivals and more as existential threats. Boardrooms in Moline and Chicago became tense chambers where strategic decisions carried the weight of potential ruin or victory, with careers, reputations, and corporate survival hanging in the balance. On the farm, the tractor wars were no less intense. Farmers debated endlessly over reliability versus raw power, with some swearing by Deere's steady dependability and others seduced by IH's promise of unmatched productivity. Dealers played an equally critical role, sometimes leveraging rumors, exaggerating flaws in competitor machines, or offering secret incentives to sway purchasing decisions. The tension was palpable. Every sale mattered, and one bad review or malfunction could tilt loyalty dramatically. This high-stakes rivalry elevated the tractor from mere equipment to a symbol of trust, pride, and personal identity for farmers navigating an increasingly industrialized agricultural landscape. Innovation remained the weapon of choice for both sides. Deere perfected fuel-efficient engines that required minimal maintenance, while IH introduced innovations like multi-row harvesting attachments and early hydraulic systems. Every advancement intensified the rivalry, and both companies understood that one breakthrough could define the next decade of dominance. Yet with innovation came risk. A single mechanical failure, a poorly timed product launch, or a misjudged marketing campaign could result in public humiliation and lost market share. By the mid-1930s, the tractor wars had become a defining feature of American agriculture. The battle was fought across fields, showrooms, and courtrooms. It was personal, corporate, and cultural all at once. John Deere, an international harvester, had transformed farming not just through machinery, but through a high-stakes conflict of engineering philosophies, corporate ambition, and human drama. A war that would set the stage for decades of triumphs, scandals, and controversies that would ripple through the heartland and beyond. Labor strikes, boardroom battles, and scandals. By the mid-20th century, the rivalry between John Deere and International Harvester had evolved far beyond the farms themselves. Tractors and harvesters were now symbols of power, but the war extended into factories, boardrooms, and even the streets, where labor unrest, corporate scandals, and strategic machinations threatened to destabilize both empires. For decades, workers, executives, and dealers would be caught in a web of tension, ambition, and occasionally outright deception, as both companies sought to maintain dominance while grappling with internal and external pressures that could explode into disaster at any moment. International Harvester became particularly notorious for labor unrest. Its sprawling factories employed tens of thousands, but working conditions were often grueling, wages inconsistent, and management notoriously rigid. Strikes erupted repeatedly, paralyzing production and threatening deadlines for new machines. The most infamous strike occurred in the early 1940s, when thousands of workers walked off the assembly lines in Chicago and other cities, demanding better pay, improved safety measures, and recognition of unions. The strike dragged on for months, costing the company millions and creating tension that reverberated across dealer networks and farming communities. Meanwhile, Deere, though slightly more conservative in its labor relations, faced its own unrest, particularly when new machinery required production methods that tested the patience and endurance of long-standing employees. While labor troubles simmered, boardroom battles added another layer of complexity. Executives at both companies were rarely in full agreement, and internal politics often mirrored the external rivalry. At International Harvester, ambitious managers pushed for aggressive expansion and high-powered machines, while cautious engineers argued that reliability and cost control should take precedence. Disagreements sometimes escalated into public spats reported in trade journals, highlighting clashes over pricing, design priorities, and strategic acquisitions. Deere's leadership, in contrast, emphasized careful calculation and precision. But even here, conflict brewed over whether to pursue rapid innovation or safeguard the company's reputation for dependable machinery. The boardrooms became arenas of subtle warfare, where deals, betrayals, and backroom negotiations could alter the balance of power overnight. Scandals, too, were never far behind. International Harvester found itself embroiled in rumors of defective components and secret testing mishaps, stories that leaked to trade publications and farmers alike. One notorious incident involved a new line of hydraulic tractors that occasionally malfunctioned, causing minor accidents in demonstration fields. Internal memos revealed that some executives were aware of the issue but proceeded with the launch, betting on marketing and dealer loyalty to overshadow the flaws. Deere, while more discreet, faced whispers of overcharging for high-end tractors, prompting angry letters from dealers and farmers that circulated quietly among corporate insiders. These scandals were never cataclysmic, but they eroded trust, fueled gossip, and provided ammunition for the opposing camp in a rivalry that now extended well beyond machinery. Dealer networks, crucial to both companies' success, became another battleground. Dealers were pressured to choose sides, sometimes facing threats of reduced supply, incentives to favor one brand, or even legal skirmishes over contracts and exclusivity. Farmers, caught in the middle, debated loudly at fairs and in local markets, comparing reliability, horsepower, and long-term costs. Some dealers leveraged scandals to gain advantage, exaggerating competitor flaws or promoting rumors to sway clients. The competition was relentless, with every sale, every dealer relationship, and every customer complaint carrying the weight of corporate survival. Through all this turmoil, innovation continued, though often under duress. Deere engineers pushed forward with diesel engines and durable, low-maintenance tractors, while IH introduced experimental machines designed to maximize efficiency on large-scale farms. Each technical breakthrough, however, carried inherent risk. A failed model could trigger dealer desertion, ignite employee anger, and spark further rumors of corporate mismanagement. The rivalry had become a high-stakes chess game where power, trust, and reputation were as critical as engineering brilliance. By the late 1950s, both companies had weathered strikes, boardroom feuds, and scandals. Yet the feud remained as intense as ever. The labor unrest, internal power struggles, and whispered controversies were not simply obstacles. They were weapons, shaping decisions, innovations, and strategies. The story of Deere versus IH was no longer only about tractors in the fields. It had become a saga of human ambition, corporate intrigue, and industrial warfare, with repercussions that would echo across decades, influencing the very fabric of American agriculture and manufacturing. International expansion and global rivalry. By the mid-1960s, John Deere and International Harvester had solidified their status as titans of American agriculture. Yet the horizon of opportunity and conflict now extended far beyond the American Midwest. Global expansion was no longer optional. It had become a strategic battlefield where every decision, every shipment, and every dealer partnership could tilt the balance of power in ways that reverberated back to their home offices in Illinois and Wisconsin. The lure of international markets was irresistible. Vast plantations in South America, post-war reconstruction in Europe, and mechanizing rural Asia promised unprecedented revenue streams, yet simultaneously exposed both companies to political instability, unfamiliar regulations, and cultural intricacies that could unravel even the most meticulously engineered machinery. For Deere and IH, entering foreign markets was as much a war of strategy as it was of engineering, with each contract, shipment, and dealer relationship carrying the weight of potential triumph or catastrophic failure. John Deere approached this challenge with calculated caution, methodically expanding into Europe, Australia, and parts of Asia. Their strategy emphasized adaptability. Tractors were redesigned for smaller European farms. Fuel-efficient engines were prioritized, and a network of local dealers was cultivated to build trust in regions where reliability mattered as much as horsepower. Even so, Deere, renowned for precision and planning, was not immune to mishaps. a shipment of tractors destined for France arrived with misaligned engines, provoking outrage among farmers who threatened to boycott Deere machinery if compensation was not offered. Executives personally intervened, flying engineers to demonstrate repaired tractors and quietly issuing replacements. But the incident became fodder for rumors that Deere machines might not be as flawless as their reputation suggested. A rare blemish that competitors quietly capitalized on in marketing and dealer communications. International Harvester, by contrast, pursued a bolder, riskier approach, aggressively targeting South America, Africa, and Asia with high-powered tractors, combines, and harvesters, promising farmers productivity unlike anything they had ever experienced. Dealers were pressured to push IH machines, sometimes offering secret discounts, extended warranties, or flexible financing unavailable to Deere clients. This aggressive expansion carried inherent danger. In Brazil, a fleet of experimental combines malfunctioned during harvest season, destroying crops for multiple clients and sparking local protests that demanded corporate accountability. Executives scrambled to negotiate compensation, deploy engineers, and organize public demonstrations of repaired machinery, all while keeping the scandal from escalating into a global story that could shake dealer confidence in the United States. Chicago boardrooms seethed as executives debated whether the gamble of rapid expansion justified the financial and reputational exposure, knowing that a single international misstep could ripple through shareholder reports and media coverage back home. The rivalry intensified as both companies monitored the other's moves across continents. Deere quietly gained favor among smaller farms in Africa and Asia, machines prized for their durability and ease of repair, while IH dominated massive plantations where sheer power outweighed dependability. Trade publications chronicled failures, rumors of engineering leaks, and whispered allegations of industrial espionage. Dealers occasionally collaborated to obtain competitor secrets, and engineers traveled under the guise of technical inspections, discreetly observing tolerances, production methods, and design choices. The battlefield had shifted from farmland to a global stage of espionage, corporate sabotage, and perception management, where reputation could be won or lost in a single mismanaged contract. The stakes were immense. Deere's reputation for reliability earned loyalty where failure was catastrophic, while IH's occasional successes in large-scale operations secured lucrative contracts and governmental partnerships that dwarfed typical domestic revenue. Both companies discovered that innovation alone was insufficient. Global expansion demanded calculated risk management, deft negotiation, and mastery over public perception, with every scandal abroad threatening to disrupt stock prices, dealer trust, and employee morale. By the late 1970s, Deere and IH were no longer merely American corporations. They had become global empires engaged in a bitter, high-stakes war that spanned continents, time zones, and cultures. Each tractor shipped overseas was a potential scandal or triumph, each dealer a potential ally or liability, and each contract a test of strategy, engineering, and human endurance. International expansion had transformed the rivalry from a domestic tractor war into a worldwide struggle for supremacy, setting the stage for the scandals, financial crises, and strategic maneuvers that would define the coming decades, near-death moments in survival. By the late 1970s, both John Deere and International Harvester had achieved global recognition. Yet, beneath the veneer of success, financial instability, missteps, and mounting scandals loomed like dark clouds over their empires. International Harvester, once revered for its audacious engineering and aggressive market strategies, teetered on the brink of collapse. A series of high-stakes decisions, risky product launches, overextended credit lines, and poorly timed acquisitions combined to create a perfect storm of financial strain. Dealers reported delays in shipments, tractors arrived with critical flaws, and the press was merciless, amplifying rumors that IH's machinery, once synonymous with reliability, was now dangerously unpredictable. The company's leadership faced relentless scrutiny, forced to defend decisions that could potentially erase decades of innovation and market dominance. The troubles began with IH's ambitious push into the global arena. In an effort to outpace Deere, the company invested heavily in experimental tractor lines and cutting-edge harvesting machines, many of which were designed faster than they could be tested. A massive shipment of combines destined for Latin America malfunctioned during peak harvest, destroying crops and igniting protests that drew national attention. Executives flew in to manage the crisis, offering replacements and public apologies, but the incident exposed a critical flaw in IH's management philosophy. Speed and ambition were prioritized over quality assurance. Investors panicked, shares tumbled, and murmurs of bankruptcy began circulating in financial circles. John Deere, although not facing the same financial brink, experienced its own near-death moments, largely due to labor unrest and boardroom conflicts. Strikes among American factory workers in the Midwest threatened to halt production, just as Deere's international expansion demanded flawless output. Employees demanded higher wages, improved safety standards, and more comprehensive benefits, and the company's management found itself in a tense standoff that risked derailing overseas shipments and damaging the company's carefully cultivated reputation. Media outlets sensationalized the labor disputes, portraying Deere as a corporate giant at odds with the very workers whose diligence sustained its empire. For a brief period, investors questioned whether Deere's calculated expansion strategy could survive in the face of internal upheaval. Meanwhile, IH faced a more existential threat, a mounting debt crisis that risked total collapse. Over-leveraged acquisitions and ambitious construction equipment projects had drained capital reserves. Executives scrambled to restructure loans and renegotiate contracts, but each delay heightened the perception that IH was a failing company. Rumors spread of secret meetings with creditors, emergency board sessions, and internal power struggles that saw rival factions maneuvering for control. Some employees feared for their jobs, while dealers debated whether continuing to push IH machines was worth the reputational risk. It was a moment in which corporate survival teetered on a knife's edge, and every decision carried potentially catastrophic consequences. Despite these crises, both companies demonstrated remarkable resilience. Deere's management stabilized labor relations through a combination of compromise, incentives, and carefully staged public relations campaigns. Strikes were resolved, productivity resumed, and international shipments continued without interruption, reinforcing the company's image as a dependable powerhouse. IH, facing the gravest threat, executed a series of desperate but ultimately successful maneuvers, streamlining production, selling off underperforming divisions, and renegotiating debt in secret. The boardroom became a theater of tension, where the line between victory and bankruptcy was razor-thin, and executives were forced to act decisively under immense pressure. These near-death experiences left permanent marks on both companies. IH, chastened by its brush with collapse, adopted a more conservative approach, carefully weighing every international expansion and product launch. Deere, having survived labor unrest and the pressures of global growth, doubled down on its reputation for reliability and strategic foresight. The rivalry, once dominated by technological feats and aggressive marketing, now incorporated lessons in crisis management, risk assessment, and human dynamics. By the end of the decade, both John Deere and International Harvester had survived their most perilous challenges. Scandals had been weathered, near bankruptcies averted, and reputations, though tested, remained largely intact. Yet the shadow of these events lingered, a reminder that even giants could stumble, and that global dominance was never guaranteed. For Deere and IH, survival had become an art form, and the lessons learned during these turbulent years would shape the strategies, rivalries, and scandals of the coming decades. Ultimate Farm War. By the early 1980s, the dust of decades-long battles between John Deere and International Harvester had begun to settle, but the echoes of rivalry, scandal, and near collapse reverberated through every boardroom, factory, and farm field. What had started as a competition over horsepower, efficiency, and innovation had evolved into a saga of human ambition, corporate intrigue, and strategic audacity that reshaped the agricultural landscape forever. For Deere, survival had solidified its reputation as the archetype of reliability. a company that could weather strikes, mismanage shipments, and global expansion crises with steely precision. For IH, the lessons of overreach, near bankruptcy, and public humiliation left a bitter taste, one that would ultimately shape decisions leading to the company's decline and eventual acquisition. The legacy of this war was not written merely in the financial ledgers of the companies, but in the very machines that plowed, harvested, and transformed fields across the world. Each tractor, harvester, and combine became a testament to the battles fought behind the scenes. Some celebrated, some whispered about in hushed tones by dealers and engineers. Deere machines carried the weight of meticulous planning and crisis management, while IH's fleet bore the scars of ambitious gambles, rushed launches, and the occasional catastrophic failure. Collectors and historians later marveled at these machines, seeing not just agricultural equipment, but relics of an industrial war fought with ingenuity, audacity, and relentless competition. Scandals, too, became part of the enduring story. IH's misfires in South America, secret boardroom power struggles, and debt crises became cautionary tales in business schools, while Deere's labor disputes and international quality hiccups offered lessons in diplomacy, negotiation, and public perception management. Dealers and engineers who had been on the front lines often recounted clandestine strategies, secret meetings to gather intelligence on competitors, and the tense negotiations that could have turned minor disputes into global embarrassments. These anecdotes, part legend and part reality, contributed to a mystique that surrounded both companies long after the tractors stopped rolling off assembly lines. Yet the human element remained central to the legacy. Executives who had navigated near bankruptcies, employees who endured long strikes, and engineers who risked everything to correct design flaws, each played roles in a drama that rivaled any industrial epic. Rivalries between key figures at both companies were remembered as intensely personal and fiercely professional, with alliances, betrayals, and grudges shaping strategy as much as engineering innovation did. For John Deere, survival required shrewd risk management and loyalty to workers and dealers. For IH, it required audacity, resilience, and the courage to gamble everything for a chance at global dominance. The ultimate farm war also left an indelible mark on global agriculture. Mechanization advanced faster because of the competition. Engineers pushed boundaries in engine efficiency, hydraulic systems, and harvesting technology because they knew that a single failure could shift the balance of power. The rivalry drove dealer networks to become more sophisticated, customer support to become more comprehensive, and marketing campaigns to become sharper and more aggressive. Farmers, often caught in the crossfire of these corporate battles, ultimately benefited from a relentless push toward reliability, innovation, and technological advancement. By the late 20th century, International Harvester had been absorbed, its assets divided, and its name largely retired from the global stage, while John Deere emerged not merely as a survivor, but as a colossus in the agricultural machinery world. Yet, even as IH faded, the lessons of its audacity, near misses, and scandals continued to resonate, influencing strategies in boardrooms, R&D labs, and international expansions around the globe. The story of Deere versus IH became more than a business rivalry. It became a case study in risk, resilience, and the human drama behind industrial dominance. Ultimately, the legacy of the ultimate farm war is a tapestry of triumphs, failures, scandals, and survival. It is the story of machines that plowed through more than fields. They plowed through ambition, rivalry, and adversity. It is a reminder that the pursuit of dominance, no matter how calculated, carries both glory and peril. And it is a story of human ingenuity and determination, where the echoes of boardroom battles, international gambles, and near-catastrophic missteps continue to shape the landscape of agriculture, business, and corporate legend. For those who study the war between John Deere and International Harvester, the lesson is clear. In a battle for supremacy, survival is only part of the victory, and legacy is forged in the crucible of conflict, scandal, and relentless ambition.